The Thornfield Concert Hall glittered like a palace that night, chandeliers blazing, violins tuning, and the low hum of well-dressed patrons filling the grand foyer. To most people, it was just another evening of culture and refinement, but to Marcus Chen, it was just another night of work. He moved quietly among the crowd, invisible in his olive-green custodial uniform. He pushed his cart across the marble floor, his gloved hands careful not to scuff the polished surface. Every now and then someone brushed past him, their perfume or cologne lingering in the air, as if to remind him how far he was from their world. Marcus didn't mind. He'd learned to find comfort in silence, in being unseen. 2 years ago, after his wife had passed from cancer, he had taken this job because it offered him the one thing that mattered more than money: time with his 6-year-old daughter. She was waiting for him now, back in the small apartment they shared on the east side of town, probably in her pajamas, watching the same cartoon she always did before bedtime. He smiled, thinking of her laughter. That sound was the only music he still loved. Once, long ago, Marcus had played real music. He had studied piano at Juilliard, a scholarship kid from a working-class family. His professors called him the quiet genius. He had dreams of concert halls and orchestras, of composing something the world would remember. But life has a way of breaking even the most promising symphonies. His father's illness, bills, the need to take care of family, all those notes scattered until one day he simply stopped playing. He hadn't touched a piano in 12 years. That evening, as the gala began, Marcus worked near the back of the hall, making sure the aisles were clear and the brass railings gleamed. The city's elite had gathered for the annual Thornfield Arts Benefit, an event where CEOs, donors, and musicians mingled under golden light. From the stage, the host's cheerful voice boomed, "And tonight, to close our first act, we have a little surprise." Laughter rippled through the audience as a few stagehands whispered among themselves. Someone called out, "Hey, why don't we get the janitor to play us something?" The room chuckled. Marcus froze, his mop still in hand. One of the event organizers, a young man with a smug grin, gestured toward him. "Come on, Mr. Chen, we've seen you eyeing that piano all year. Give it a go." Marcus felt every eye turn toward him. He wanted to sink into the floor. The CEO of Thornfield Industries, Jonathan Reeves, a tall man in a black tuxedo with silver hair, leaned forward in amusement. "Oh, can our janitor play?" More laughter. Marcus's throat went dry. "Sir, But Jonathan raised a hand. "Humor us, one song. Consider it part of the entertainment." The hall quieted in anticipation. A few people smirked, expecting some clumsy tune, maybe a few wrong notes before the man scurried away in embarrassment. Marcus looked at the grand piano, a Steinway, gleaming under the stage lights. He hesitated. His fingers twitched. The thought of touching those keys again made something stir in him, something buried deep. He took a slow breath and walked toward the stage. When he sat down, the hall seemed to shrink. He could hear his own heartbeat. The lid of the piano reflected his face. Tired eyes, worn hands, a man far from the dream he once chased. He placed his fingers on the keys. For a moment, silence. Then he began. It was not a rehearsed piece, not something from memory. It was something new, something that came from the years of love, loss, and quiet endurance. The notes flowed like whispers at first, then rose into a storm of feeling. Each chord seemed to tell a story, of his wife's laughter, her illness, Emma's first cry, and the nights he played lullabies on a broken keyboard to help her sleep. The melody swelled, tender, aching, alive. People stopped talking. The laughter faded. The violinist in the corner froze mid-sentence. A waiter carrying glasses set down his tray. Even the air felt heavier, as if it too was listening. Jonathan Reeves sat motionless, his hands folded before him. The melody reminded him of his own wife, gone 10 years now, the way she used to hum while watering the garden. Tears welled in his eyes. The music rose one last time, then softened into a fragile, trembling finish. When the final note faded, there was nothing but silence. And then, applause. It began softly from a few people who were brave enough to break the stillness. Then it grew, louder, stronger, until the entire hall was on its feet. Marcus stared at his hands almost in disbelief. He didn't bow. He just smiled faintly and wiped his eyes. Jonathan Reeves stood and walked to the stage. The applause dimmed as he approached. What was that piece? The CEO asked, voice trembling slightly. Marcus looked up. It doesn't have a name, he said quietly. It's just for my daughter. Jonathan nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Then he extended his hand. Mr. Chen. That was extraordinary. You're no janitor tonight. The next morning, Marcus was back at work, polishing the same brass fixtures as always. He tried to convince himself that nothing had changed. But before noon, the CEO's assistant found him. Mr. Reeves wants to see you, she said. Marcus followed her through the grand corridors to the top-floor office. Jonathan stood by the window, looking out over the city. He turned and smiled. Mr. Chen, I listened to the recording from last night. Yes, someone filmed it. It's already gone viral. Marcus blinked. Viral? 500,000 views in 12 hours, Jonathan said. People are calling you the janitor pianist. Music schools, donors. Even the city's cultural board are asking who you are. Marcus didn't know what to say. Jonathan continued. You reminded everyone here what music is really about. Not prestige, but heart. I want you to have a place here. Not as a janitor, but as an artist in residence. You'll teach, play, and compose. With full pay. Marcus swallowed hard. Sir, I don't know if I can. You can, Jonathan said simply. And I think your daughter deserves to see that. Marcus looked down, emotions welling in his chest. He nodded slowly. 2 months later, the Thornfield Hall hosted another concert, this time for charity. The stage lights glowed softly as Marcus walked out in a crisp suit, his daughter Emma sitting in the front row, her little legs swinging. When he sat at the piano, she waved, and he waved back. Then he began to play, the same melody as that night, but fuller now, richer. The audience listened, not to a janitor or a performer, but to a man who had found his music again. And as the last notes drifted through the hall, little Emma whispered to the woman beside her, "That's my daddy." The woman smiled through her tears, and for the first time in years, so did Marcus.